Hello, and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me, as always, we got Jameson, we got Ty, and folks, the spring game is right here. And frankly, look, there's not a lot to talk about with practice. Guys are doing things. Uh, it's all practice hype. Last year, we thought Spencer Rattler was going to win the Heisman. So, frankly, who the hell knows what's going to happen? But one thing that is up for debate that we can all talk about is the just kind of, let's be honest, he kind of called out Sooner Nation, Brent Venables, a couple, like, I believe last week, kind of implored OU fans to come out to the spring game, basically saying this is a massive part of our success going forward, that they should show up, that they have a part to play in this, in a way. And frankly, if you've listened to this pod enough times, we have some interesting takes on that sort of thing, varied across the board. So, Jameson, I'll let you start. What is your expectation for a spring game crowd? Do you think a sellout is unreasonable to ask? What do you think would be a good crowd for the spring game?
I think 3/4 is honestly a good thing. But here's the deal: what Brent Venables is doing. He's shooting high and he's trying to get people up and riled up so they can go and support their team. But here, a lot of OU fans are in the comments of YouTube and chats and message board, and they're like, "How dare he say we don't show up to the games? We've been selling out games since the 19 whatevers. Like we haven't missed a sellout in forever." But he's talking about the spring game. I mean, y'all remember the 2019 spring game? It was windy and it was like a little rainy, I think. Absolutely miserable, cold, like 40 degrees of spring game. Yeah, I guarantee you there weren't a full or 75% in that game. He was talking about the spring game. And now that we got a little bit later in April and we got a good weather forecast, hopefully coming up for that weekend, that we can get a lot of people to show up and enjoy this new era of college football. But it's not about OU in general, because obviously we're going to fill our stadium just for a regular season game because it's Oklahoma. It's a college football state.
I mean, for sure. But I mean, some of these quotes, we've talked about this from Venables. We talked about this program being one of the most tradition-rich and best programs in the history of college football. Then show up with some pride on the 23rd. That's the expectation. The expectation for us, we show up, we play passionate, play tough, we play disciplined, we play with uncommon effort. And the expectation for everybody else, just like every sport on this campus, if I'm a Sooner, I'm a Sooner. I'm not a Sooner when it's convenient, okay? I'm not a great fan when it's convenient, okay? That's not how it works. I wish it did. Ty, I know you've had your opinions, especially pertaining to like the student section. When you hear that, when you hear, I'm not a Sooner when it's convenient, all this sort of stuff. What's your opinion? What came to your mind when you heard him say that?
So first, I want to point out that at the Schooner Pod here, we make every effort to be an unbiased podcast, and when we can't be unbiased, I feel like we should disclose our biases. So I just want to pose for my two co-hosts here just a yes or no question. We'll start left to right, so we'll go Jameson and then Bobby.
Oh, great.
Jameson, are you going to the spring game?
Oh man, he put me on the hot seat. I'm not going. I'm not.
Okay, Bobby, are you going to the spring game?
I have a
yes
wedding.
or no.
I can't.
It was a yes or no question.
So just
no, I am not going to the spring game.
We both have excuses.
Before we dive into this, neither Bobby or Jameson are going. Okay, but important take to mention here. Lincoln Riley also asked for people to completely sell out the spring game. And I think, maybe I'm reading too deep into the tea leaves here, but I'm seeing good winds of change because it's the same ask from both people. And I think this is going to translate to the player performance. And this ties into something that Venables said later on in his speech. Lincoln Riley also several times asked for everyone to sell out the spring game, but it was kind of a like, hey, we should do this. There was no real passion in the ask. There was no attempt at justification. He just kind of said like, hey, we need to do this. And that was it. And that's not a good way to get people fired up and get them to come. Whether you agree with Venables' takes here, and we'll dive deeper into that as we roll down the road here. But it was an impassioned ask. He put some reasoning behind it. He presented an argument, whether you think that's a valid argument or not. But he went up there and really poured his heart out, if you want to call it that, if you want to, maybe that's being a little dramatic in the ask. And I think that translates to how he's going to motivate the players as well. And he talked about it in his speech. Every single game is the biggest game of the year that week. And that's, we could do a whole series of multi-hour podcasts on how Lincoln Riley teams didn't play against bad opponents. We played poorly because we didn't come into them hyped, and our people felt like we're coasting through. And if we have someone that is trying to get people this hyped for just coming to the spring game, as we dive into that argument, I think it's a really good sign that the passion and sort of not just caring about it, but he's trying to put some justification behind it. He's trying to approach it from different angles of motivation. He touched on donating and all sorts of stuff as we dive in. So I think it's a really good sign.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Like, you took it at a very reasonable angle, and I fully agree with you that, like, setting that bar high and setting it at the level of other SEC programs, other top tier programs. Nebraska sells out their spring game, and they've been ass for like at least a decade plus now. And frankly, that's a good way to start. But again, I will say, like, I think it's passion, aim high, end up low. That's okay with me. He ain't going to get a sellout. That's just not how this culture is at OU. The spring game has kind of been an afterthought for years. I mean, Jameson and Ty, y'all remember our freshman and sophomore years, several times we couldn't make the spring game, like, as students, because we had big event. Like, the university intentionally was trying to sabotage the spring game at times. Like, that's how little they cared about it. So it's not exactly like big event. For those of you who don't know, by the way, it's a sort of deal where you go do community service. It's a campus-wide deal. It's really, really encouraged across, like, the student body to do it. So putting that on the spring game, I mean, you're planning it. You're the body planning it. Don't plan it on the same day. Never made any sense. Rant over.
I'd like to think that the students that are in charge of planning that and making that date also are probably not thinking as much about the spring game, because I don't see big event people in spring game fanatics really crossing paths too much. But I mean, yes, you're right, Bobby. It's the spring game obviously has been an afterthought, and then Lincoln Riley propulsed it. Or is that even a word? Propelled it. Maybe. I don't know.
You're the scientist
propelled
here.
I've never been good with words. But he propelled it into a new level where it was in a recruiting, mega hub of commits and eyeballs. And it was an extremely hyped up event. But, with Brent Venables now, he's not going to be doing any eyeballs. He's not going to be taking early commits that are going to be silent and never going to end up seeing, the benefits of them. We had that one spring game where it seems like almost all of those eyeballs just from that spring game weekend never ended up committing to OU. So I just don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore. And that's one angle that got a lot of people excited. I think this spring game is different because it is a brand new coaching staff and a new era, and people will be excited to see that brand new thing coming in. But he's got a really tough task moving forward, because whether we like to say it is, we are a little bit fair weather fans here in OU, and he was addressing it for sure. And Oklahoma fans in general, we talk about Thunder. We're seeing it right now. Oklahoma fans seem to be a little fair weathered, and we're very spoiled. And our fan base doesn't want to come out to Norman just to watch a couple of scrimmages up in there. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but that's another good reason that he said we're going to play it almost like a real game. He's going to play it really competitive.
Yeah. Yeah. Ty, you go for it. I talked too much the last time.
Oh, it's okay. I'm sure we all will soon. We're already, 11 minutes into this. I did want to touch on something, Bobby, that you had mentioned sort of when you spoke about big event, and that's, like you said, the university is not doing itself any favors. Actually, that's what I have right here in my talking point notes is OU doesn't do itself any favors with the spring game. It just doesn't feel very well thought out. So for me, I think you have to be realistic. You have to say, we're never going to sell it out. So I don't understand why we wouldn't do like how some stadiums do, close off a section and then completely cover the seats. So we're talking about the entire upper deck,
Tarps.
just put like a red tarp over. Yeah. And it's only the lower bowl. And then we set ourselves a realistic goal. Let's try to sell out the lower bowl. Let's put as many, actual seats in there as we can and sort of do some things like that. Another thing, the time slot, and you can make the argument about fair weather fans and stuff too, but like we pick our own time slot. There's like no one, we don't have TV deals. We don't have other stuff. Like we're just choosing to screw with people by playing the spring game at 11 in the morning.
It's 2:30.
I thought it was 2:30.
It's 2:30. 2:30.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I got
time.
caught up in
Well,
in the past.
And 2:30. Yeah, they have Stoops did not, and I feel like a lot of people have this like kind of I don't know, revisionist history idea of Stoops like being perfect and all this. He gave up towards like a good like 5-6 years of his tenure. Spring game in particular, he did not give a he didn't give anything. Did not care about the spring game at all.
I don't even. Do you remember much about the red and white games back in the day in the spring game?
They were
that's
totally
what we
useless.
called it. The majority.
Totally useless.
I maybe have one shred of a tiny little sliver of a memory from my time at a spring game during the Bob Stoops era, but like nothing with that. I mean, Lincoln Riley ones, I remember them pretty darn well. Bob Stoops era spring games, I mean, I went to them, a couple of them, but I don't remember much at all. It was not a big event.
The only significant memory was like Adrian Peterson wearing the blue numbers. That one spring game.
I do remember that now.
Because they tried to make him wear a blue shirt, but he didn't want to wear the blue shirt. So that was cool. But other than that, like, I mean, I remember growing up, like asking my dad to go, and he's like, "What are you talking about? It's just a waste of time. I don't want to go see it." Like, it's about the culture, and if you look at Alabama, if you look at all these other programs both across the South, and you look at the exceptions of Nebraska, Ohio State, they fill that out because that's what they do. But I think you also got to look at some of those places don't charge. Texas doesn't charge.
Well,
Alabama for the first year of Saban, totally free. Granted, they had like 20,000 people outside of the stadium, but it's just about building that culture, and this is probably the first step towards it. And Jameson, you're right. Lincoln had the right idea. He put on a show when it came to spring games, and I think maybe Brent could learn a little from that. Add a little showmanship to it, not just the football. Hopefully, the football is good enough to watch. Because, and hell, frankly, Ty, I mean, you and I watched the last spring game together. We had a great time watching Caleb Williams in that blue shirt running around the field the whole time. It was a good time. That was a good time out. Lincoln had the right idea there, and hopefully Brent can build on that football wise.
Yeah, I think finding an identity with the spring game, because again, like not to demean it, but it's sort of a non-essential thing. You could just not have it and it wouldn't affect anything. I don't think there's any real training or practice value to holding it. I don't think anyone of the players is really learning anything from it. The university certainly isn't making money from it. I think that's, the only reason we charge is, I think, try to offset the cost of opening up the stadium and the facilities and the staff that requires. And I think even then it still doesn't even break even. I think it's in the red constantly. So you have to pick that identity. And I think you guys are right touching on it. I agree. Lincoln Riley, I think, did it right. I think focusing on it as a recruiting event and making it a party atmosphere is the right move. We'll see what Venables does. I don't think, necessarily requiring people to commit or asking people to commit on it or whatever else. Obviously that's outside of Venables' wheelhouse. And like we touched on it didn't really turn into anything meaningful in the years of Lincoln Riley, but having a big event where we can host people, where we can have, almost this fusion of the spring or the summer barbecue and everything else. If we can do it up and try to get, alumni, like the Baker Mayfield statue thing obviously does add some to it, but really do it up and make it more of a party event and less about the the football, because the football isn't real football. It's not real meaningful football, and it's not for a very long time. So if we can find a way to sort of make that a better atmosphere, I think one thing that could be huge for recruits and for new players and for everyone else, and it would take a little bit more time, but even just something as simple as doing like NBA style intros for every one of the players or for most of the players, give them individual call outs, put their faces up there, let them run out on their own and mention their hometown and their high school or something, or maybe just the players that it's their first year playing on OU or something to cut the time down. Really, I think the party atmosphere, to me, and then I'll cut myself off and we can move on, but it really makes a lot of sense. It's in the spring. We want to have a party atmosphere. We want to have a unique atmosphere. We want to get people to come down to Norman and have it not be a waste of time. You want to come down to Norman and be able to spend a whole day there, because it's not worth dealing with all the traffic to come down for an hour and a half or whatever of football. And I think the answer is it's obvious and it's right in front of us. And it's the fact that with just a little bit of scheduling, moving the spring game a little bit, and then moving something else a little bit and combining them to create a big party atmosphere. And I think the answer is right in front of us and obvious, and no one's ever suggested it, but it's the clear answer is that the spring game needs to be hosted smack dab in the middle of the Norman Medieval Fair.
I knew there was something good coming.
That's a
dilemma.
Think about
Jousting
just
at halftime.
The character of having the Medieval Fair in the spring game. So you'd move the Medieval Fair from Reeves Park and host it inside the sort of track area, and then just have everyone be able to flow freely. You get a halftime show. We already run horses on the field at halftime. So yeah, jousting or something can't be that hard to do. Do a real crazy halftime show with like knights and whatever else, and just create this, give all the recruits little like plastic crowns and stuff that they can have, and just all sorts of neat stuff. Yeah. So,
Ty's had some interesting takes, but that one it's crazy, but it's never going to happen, but I can see that being a slightly okay idea.
I mean, I personally like it. I'm for it. Jousting at Owen Field, I am all for that. That sounds great. I also got to say, it's funny that the one person that actively lives in Norman came up with probably the worst traffic idea of all time for the city of Norman. But technically, you live beyond Highway 9,
it's
so you
almost,
can just scoot past it.
So it's almost better because it wouldn't be an all at one time thing. You'd have a big flow right before the game, but if you had the fair going before and after, you have, hey, let's get there and do pregame for an hour at the fair, and then go to the game, and then spend some time at the fair after. So I think it maybe potentially would help, because certainly it wouldn't be any worse than an actual game day.
And the crowd that goes to the medieval fair is not, and this is another thing where our crowds are not mixing well. I don't think a lot of those people are getting excited about the OU spring game. But I mean, let's move on, because this is off-season pod. Keep things quicker than our regular season pods. I wanted to mention a couple of Easter eggs in honor of Easter weekend that I found in this that I wanted y'all to discuss. I mean, anytime a coach goes on for 8 minutes straight off of one question, obviously you're going to see a lot of truce and not a lot. Yeah, it's a lot, but you see a lot of truce and not a lot of coach speak, because a lot of times whenever you give shorter answers, you can kind of script those, we're going to give it 100%, blah, blah, blah. We come out every single game and like it's the only game of the season, blah, blah, blah. He said a little bit of that, but he also had some Easter eggs that I thought were kind of interesting, kind of fun things to talk about. He said, quote, he said, doesn't matter if we have a halftime event. And he also talked about alternative uniforms. It doesn't matter about that either. Obviously, I think someone in the administration had given Brent Venables a rundown of what OU fans love to bitch about. And those are the two biggest things in terms of, this season. I feel like the stupid halftime events of the honky tonk badonky donk that a lot of people were mad about. And then anytime OU wears their bring the wood or alternative uniforms and lose. So okay, Brent, these are things that are trigger items for OU fans. If you can kind of diffuse this into your new era, that would be great. So I think that might have been a thing for him to talk about. He's like, I don't care about those things. You shouldn't care about them either. So obviously someone coached him on that.
Well, I don't know if they really coached him, and it would have been a great acting job if they did, because he didn't know the name of the Rough Riders. He didn't know the name. He didn't even know he was just like,
he couldn't remember the word
alternative. He was like looking offside to the screen, like I don't know what they're called. They go alternate uniforms. Yeah, whatever, alternate uniforms. The Rough Riders are very dead. Any idea of a black or an anthracite jersey? Those are dead. Brent is about the hardcore. I mean this to newer like viewers or listeners. I mean this is an endearing term. The Gooners are gonna love that. The fans who want tradition to stay tradition, who are probably mad we have Sooners on the front of the chest, want to go back to just like the classic, just number only. Those are good. Those people are thrilled to hear that, and maybe that's good. That's probably good for for fundraising, I'm sure. But I don't know. He's clearly in a. He speaks to that population, and I think that's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, I think there was some hedges in there. Specifically, he was talking about the alternate uniforms. I'm sort of anti-alternate uniform myself. I think if we were to have alternate uniforms and we were to wear them, do it in the spring game. I'm not a fan of them during the season because I think it's a cope. Bama doesn't have or need alternate uniforms to get recruits. So, and we do it so, for lack of a better term, half-assed. Not to dive into the alternate uniform discussion, but if you're gonna do something, you got to commit to it. You can't have the same thing for close to a decade now. And then there was a big hedge for the time slots too. He kept saying, I think he specifically said 11 a.m. in reference to time slots at least 3 times, and he alluded to it a couple other times. And that's it's out of his control. I understand that, and we sell out the games regardless of the 11 a.m. But I don't think it's the right approach to say that you shouldn't complain about it, because ultimately complaining about it, if we are a good school, if we're putting out a good product, which is something he talked about with the entertainment value, and if we're putting out a good product nationally, not just to our fans, that's how we get the better time slots on TV, because ultimately that's what it's about. So just saying, hey, it's out of our control, we can't do anything about it, is factually not true. And I don't like that approach, whether it's a motivation tactic. I understand, I agree, the fans, if you're a true fan, you're going to be out there rain, shine, no matter what. So we'll see.
Well, and Ty, one of my biggest takeaways from the Venables thing is it didn't seem like he was talking about the spring game. If you really look at what he says, he's talking about the fan culture in general.
I think so. I think so in some instances, but you can't say this is a whole generalization of everything he said was about everything.
No.
I really truly think the 3-4 thing is not the 3-4 was a spring game thing. I will stand by that.
Of course. We're talking about like the engagement, the excitement, the energy. For sure, you're right. It is not a full blanket statement on our fans as a whole. Naturally, like, come on, look at Memorial Stadium every single week. It's that way. But I think his thing was, people leaving early, people, potentially not having that same noise or that same energy that, some of these other programs have. And I could see, like, you're right. A lot of that was that. And, are you in, like, how do you feel about that? Do you think this is the last thing we'll talk about this before we move on to Harkless and everything else? But do you think like the fans deserve that call out? Do you think they do need to step it up, especially as we move to the SEC, where crowds are louder, crowds are more intense? And do you think that as a fan base, OU fans need to step up?
Yeah, here's the thing. I really, truly, I respond well to this kind of talk. Like in your face, bluntness, like telling you what you got to do. Like, we aren't as perfect as you think you are. Because a lot of times people get a little sensitive whenever they're telling me that I'm not perfect. I don't do everything the right way. Our program OU isn't this, high end, does everything the right way. Obviously, we have our faults, and I really applaud him for calling that out. But he was talking to us like he was talking like a coach to his players. Another great thing. And I almost got this vibe that some of the things he said, like, for example, whenever he's talking about so openly about the SEC next year, like this is a similar kind of tone and discussion that he has with recruits too. So I really enjoyed it because that felt very genuine, that the way he talks to his players and his hopefully future players, he's talking like that to the fans and holding them to the same standard. I really enjoyed that a lot because I feel like a lot of the times, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, coaches sometimes can get through press conferences and you can't get anything. We can't talk about it on a podcast for over 30 minutes.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I think we've proven that we can. We go on so many sidebars and tangents. We definitely could. But I think it, like Jameson sort of touched on, and Bobby, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. That wasn't intended. I don't think anyone planned on an 8.5 minute or 8 minute, we'll say 8 minute for brevity's sake. I'm not sure the exact time. Monologue there. I don't think anyone expected that. And it shows the genuine passion that's there, which I think does translate. And you could tell that it's genuine. I think he had talking points, but you could tell he was talking about a lot of stuff that, was just on his mind. It was almost unintentionally by the reporters, because one reporter did keep trying to interrupt him a couple times with questions. The Schooner Pod would never do that. We're much smarter than to interrupt something like that, because it's a classic interrogation tactic of just being quiet and letting someone, give them enough rope to hang themselves or continue to talk about what's on their mind. And that's what he was doing. So,
for the record, by the way, if anyone from OU Athletics wants to let us into the lecture room, we accept, as long as you let us down a couple of pitchers at O'Connell's first, and then we'd be good. Go ahead, Ty. Sorry to interrupt.
But anyways, I understand his ideas of fan engagement. It got really borderline, 12th man, Aggies, sort of I understand crowd noise can be a factor, but got kind of into the whole, the fans make a big difference type thing. I a little bit more pragmatic, it's about money and everything else idea. So we'll see, but kind of lost my train of thought there, but
I'm sorry. Yeah. That's on me.
No, it's okay.
That's on me for my poor plea to the athletics department.
We got to do those live ads to.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah, and you know what, guys?
We also have to do actual live ads.
Guys, you know what? Like,
you want to save the ad read for the transition, because I do have a really big sort of drop the hammer point from this speech.
Well, I was already transitioning halfway through, so you go ahead and drop the hammer.
So I have a big, and I have it written down verbatim, and it was right in the last sort of 20 seconds of the speech, and it was. I looked on Twitter, I looked everywhere else. No one caught on to it. I heard it and I really latched onto it. And it was a massive flex. And verbatim, that quote that Venables said was what we consider to be in-state. So he was referencing, I should have written it down. I don't even recall. It's literally in the last 20 seconds of the speech. He's talking about their sort of recruiting path and everything else. And he says, something for everyone in state, and then he stops himself for a second and corrects himself to say in state or what we consider to be in state. And what I read into that Texas immediately was North Texas. That's a massive flex for him to drop that, because that shows that's how he and his staff and the OU athletics department is viewing what presumably, I think it's hands down easy to say, the North Texas area. And we wouldn't be viewing that as an organization unless we were seeing the results that were showing us that. We can say, oh, we want to be the premier program in the DFW area, but to show, in a little slip of the tongue there, whether it was intentional or not, I don't think it was. I think he was just going with a big impassioned speech and sort of let some stuff reveal itself there. But I think that was a massive flex to all the Texas programs, and with recruiting as national as it is now, all programs, and sort of that little drop right there, because it could include other areas. He could be talking about I don't think we really recruit that well in Arkansas or wherever else we're getting people from. I think it's very obviously North Texas, but that's a massive flex if, as you as a program, are essentially the in-state program for something not in your state.
Yeah, 2023 is very big in the DFW area, and Denton's probably the biggest thing. Obviously, y'all know about Arnold, the quarterback, but Peyton Bowen, one of his best friend teammate, huge target that we're going to be trying to get there. Also, Anthony Hill, one of the best linebackers in the country, is another guy from Denton, Texas. Even though we're probably not as high of getting him, it's still another guy we're going for. It's that DFW area has been a little bit slim sometimes, but this recruiting season, absolutely not.
Well, and I mean, it's going to become even more impactful with obviously the OU joining the SEC. A&M rising the way they did with that insane class they put together, and then adding Texas to that list. They also get to put an SEC patch on their jersey as well. It's going to be a battleground. Denton is going to be an absolute battleground, and to try to establish, and I hate to even say his name on the podcast. It's going to make me sick. To use a similar term to how Howard Schnellenberger referred to the state of Miami as, that's his, like, to just kind of quarantine Miami and Florida. And that's like, that is what the U gets. They have first rights to that. If OU can somehow like really have a real sticking point in North Texas and dominate that entire metroplex, I mean, that'd be huge. If Venables can do that, that'd be massive.
For sure.
But anyways, guys, you know what I'm really excited about? What with the offseason coming on, and
it's
the
been
NHL.
fun.
The NHL, man. I don't know about y'all. Talk about North Texas. Those Dallas Stars, man.
Skate to survive.
There you go. The NHL season has been packed with dirty dangles, hat tricks, and big wins. That is in the script. That is the first sentence in the script.
Bobby's not reading the script.
This is an ad lib. This is not a script.
With a script
from
for
the
the
heart.
ad read? No, you could never. I'm sorry for the 8 people watching on live, whatever. But as the action rolls on, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has your shot to win big too. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's right. A bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, hey, look, you still have a shot to light the lamp. That means score a goal, folks. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code TPPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. 21 up. Restrictions apply, and see those show notes for details. As Ty says, go hockey. But for now, hey, look, we have someone going to the Stars Shark game this weekend. There we go. Like, that's great. Look at that.
Okay, yeah. Contractually required, hypothetically, ad reads aside, hockey in person is a super cool sport. No pun intended. I mean, because it's also cold. Bring a sweatshirt. But it is fun.
Stars games I went to is great.
Yeah, great. Go to hockey games.
I need to go to
person.
one.
Also gamble.
Our good pal Bowden Blake lives like right across the street from the AAC. We need to just all like go there.
Don't dox Bowden Blake's address on the live podcast.
Oh,
goodness.
We've exposed him. We have exposed him.
There are multiple buildings across from the AAC. I'm sure.
Oh, now it's across. It's across. You said it was right by. Now we're getting closer.
Quick.
He lives in Dallas.
Free ad read in case anyone that's an Oklahoma lawmaker is listening. We're not being political here. Please Please approve in-person sports betting. We need a sports book at Riverwind in Norman. That would be awesome.
I'm all for that. Shout out to MES Austrian Nene. I'm so sorry. The Shark Show helped me through OU sucking in the 80s. You needed all the help you
90s.
could get.
Man, you just
90s,
botched that.
90s, 80s. We were great. 90s. I'm sorry, the 90s.
I was about to say, bro, the 80s were great.
The 80s were great, other than the whole Miami Hurricane situation. But we roll on through the show. So little OU basketball aside, Elijah Harkless. We've gone far past where we thought. Jameson, just quick note: he is entering the transfer portal.
Yes.
What does this mean for OU basketball? Porter Moser squad. Are you worried?
Honestly, a little bit surprised about it, to be honest with you. I'm not worried, to be honest, because we ended the season without him, and with him right before he got injured were some of the worst games that I'd seen OU play, even though he's one of the few guys that were able to create his own shot on this team, a problem that we had a lot with in terms of ending the season, of finding an open shot a guy can go out and go get his own. There was a lot of times he had his vices. So, I mean, him going to the transfer portal, I'm not hurt. I'm just thinking about there's a lot of guys leaving, and then there's a lot of guys in the transfer portal. Like we lost Ikel Moane, or however you pronounce it, and Alston Mason was a young freshman that followed Porter Moser, and Rick Asanza too. So, I mean, we've got those four in the portal, and then plus you got guys like Ethan Chargois, like Marvin Johnson, Jordan Goldwire said he was leaving. And then, to be completely honest with you, Mo Gibson, I think, should at least leave and go up and play in Europe. How many guys did I name right there? 8? Like, that's like half your roster, right? Like, this is going to be a big overhaul going into next season.
Well, I mean, last year was also an overhaul, though. So, like, it's
and you see how it ended.
Yeah. No, and again, they figured it out as the season went on. They got a little bit better. But I kind of want to ask James, said, is this just kind of how college basketball is going to be in the future? I mean, we saw, the beauties of the tournament, the St. Pete's Peacocks, they lost almost everyone relevant, to the portal. This is just kind of, I feel like the portal has really kind of made college basketball, super transferable.
Yeah, it is. And the problem with it is basketball has 5 players, and football has.
Or your audio's off.
I'm not muted.
Yeah, he's not muted.
Okay, Bobby's just tripping. Okay, Bobby's just tripping. Let's just let Bobby trip for a little while. Like I was saying, so football has 22 starters. Basketball is 5. When you lose one of those guys in basketball, that is obviously a huge deal. And that can break up a team. And we saw it a lot. And you kind of bring up, like, St. Peter's, and these guys have been playing with each other for a long time. There's twins on the team. Like, these guys know each other really well. And whenever you have older players on the team, that's a positive, but it's even more positive if you have those guys who've been playing with each other for the past 2 or 3 years. And they know each other, and they know their in and outs. They know when they're going to make a backdoor cut. If they're going to roll off the screen, or they're going to, they're going to slip it. You know those things with guys who've been playing for a long time. But whenever you get a new set of players over and over, you can succeed like that. But you got to have a very high talent threshold. And that comes from those big power, programs that get this 5-star prospects from recruiting. But if you're in the one spectrum where you're not getting those kind of guys in recruiting, and you're getting a new turnover of a bunch of veterans leaving your team each year, that's just a recipe for getting stuck in the middle of college basketball. And I just worry to the fact of, if we can't get a big time recruiting presence, I understand we have a top 75 player coming in this next class, but if we can't get a big recruiting presence, or we can't get our guys to stay here for a long time to develop a relationship and know each other, that I don't know how high this team can go unless we hit big on, like we hit with, Buddy Hield, a guy that was good, but we did not expect him to turn into that in his senior season.
Yeah, understandable. And, that's just kind of how it is. It's tricky because OU just isn't that type of program to get the big type of guys, the Remy Martins, those next level type of guys that can really take you over to the top. And that's tough. But before we go, I want to ask a question that was brought up by an excellent question on Twitter, brought up by the Ref, local radio in Oklahoma City. Check them out; they're fantastic. They got Toby Rowland and all them. So I gotta ask, if you had to pick any of these, I'm pulling it up on the Chrome tab. If you had to pick any of these boys, which one would you go with? So we got
we're podcasts, so you got to read the options.
I know we're podcasting, so we got you can take one of these. I presume if you take one of these, like the other one wouldn't happen the next year, but whatever. So we got free all access season tickets for every OU sport is one. Brent Venables wins the national championship in his first season for another. OU never loses to Texas or Oklahoma State again. OU men's and women's basketball wins their first national championship next season. Lincoln Riley never wins a game at USC, which is just trolling at that point. Or you can rewrite history and change one outcome of any OU previous OU game. So, Jameson, I'll let you start. Which one would you take?
Two of these are absolutely selfish and expose you. If you ever pick the free access season tickets or Lincoln Riley never wins a game, don't be that person. Be selfless. And I have the idea with sports, and this comes all across everything. It's if you ain't first, you're last. I don't care about bowl wins. I don't care about winning against Texas. All these things. It's all about national championships. And if I can guarantee myself one and I can, afford to lose some, I feel great. And even though men's and women's equals 2 and Brent Venables wins a national title in first season is 1, I'm still taking football because how much it means to this team and how much it means to the state of that football. And I know some people will say like, oh, you can rewrite history and change one of those national champions that we lost, say like an LSU or a Florida. But to be completely honest with you, this is an absolutely pivotal time. And if we would have changed, for example, 2008 Florida, we win that game. We kind of already talked about it earlier in the podcast. We know Bob Stoops is fizzling out. And how much would that change the future of OU football, of them winning that game? I would argue a little bit, but not much. Would it change the OU future a lot if Brent Venables wins his national title in this first season? Absolutely, because we're about to head to the SEC. And if we're a national title team now, not all the way back in 2000. I know we've been hanging our hats that we won a national title in the 21st century. And if we actually won one recent that these kids actually watch with their eyeballs, they'll be like, okay, this team's going to the SEC. I like this Venables guy because everyone loves him on these meetings. And they've won. Now we're right up at the top. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see us have top 3 recruiting classes and actually put ourselves in the conversation similar to that was Clemson whenever they won their first national title.
I think that's a very nuanced point about it in terms of establishing something for the SEC. I'll hold my take on it. Ty, what pill would you pick? Ty is
now
muted.
He's muted. This is actually not Bobby tripping.
This is actually not me tripping.
Throw the options?
Yeah, we got you. We got you. Right.
Okay.
There you go.
Breaking it down, quick fire from the hip. So that's Jameson is full screen. Now I'm full screen. I don't have the options. Now we're all up here. Okay, so at least I have the options. So first off,
that's okay.
Free all-access season tickets to every OU sport. Not worth it. You're silly if you pick this one. This one's in OU colors to fool you. This is good test-taking skills. I want everyone to write this down. This is how you get a good ACT, SAT. So next one, Brent Venables wins the national title in his first season. That is this upcoming season. So that one is one that jumps out to you as a possible right answer. So we're going to leave that one, eliminate the first one. Next one, OU never loses to Texas or Oklahoma State again. That would be, I think, arguably maybe even a better answer. Bobby has moved the people now, so I have no idea what the other ones are. So next we have a OU men's and
I don't know why it keeps showing Jameson.
It's still cut off. So there's one that says something about basketball. Nobody cares about basketball, but I do kind of like this pill as just a troll move, right? Because you take the one where OU men's or women's, I would say men's, but I don't think you have the option is how I'm interpreting this pill. We'll have to see if there's
you get both. You get both at one time.
Okay, so both. So I kind of like that one. I actually kind of really like this one just as a troll because OU fans don't care and everyone else in the Big 12 cares so much. And it would be kind of hilarious for us to win a men's basketball title. The fan base and the students don't even care that much. And it would just completely upset people that that's all that they have. So I do kind of like that one because I like the option of OU football is already so good, right? We already have everything. We're already sort of like upper crust at the Big 12. And taking the basketball title is almost like a let them eat cake moment, right? Like there's one little crumb that the paupers of the Big 12 have, that the laymen, the street people, the street rats, all they have is basketball. If we could take that away from them too and just completely take everything that they know and love, that would be cool. Lincoln Riley never wins a game at USC. That one is hard because it's the Pac-12, which is a barely Power 5. So I'm going to exclude that one just on a moral standpoint because I think that one would involve some sort of serious medical issue or something else for Lincoln Riley. We don't want to wish that upon him.
Some sort of unfortunate situation.
Yeah, unless of course he were to cheer for Ferrari or be associated with Ferrari F1. And then you can rewrite history and change the outcome of any one past OU game. Spoiler alert, this is the one I'm taking. I kind of broke down all the others. I'm taking this one. It's in green and yellow, like the Packers. Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in the NFL, hands down for sure. But I like this one because I would take this one and I would choose 2008, the national championship against Florida, because I think potentially we save lives. We save lives by doing this one, and we save some other people. Some stuff has come out with obviously you got to think about who's on that team.
Okay,
right? Urban Meyer. We stop him.
Oh
right?
no!
Stop Urban Meyer. That's a big one. We take out potentially Cam Newton, which is also a big one for the drivers.
That wouldn't take Cam.
Oh no!
The people on the roads.
Cam Newton's a hot button issue today in sports.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
We could potentially save someone's computer. Some North Carolina drivers,
computer.
people on Twitter. And then we're not even going to touch on the other obvious one. There's potential effects where we end the Patriots Tom Brady dynasty there, and then also literally save lives. So I'm going to take the one, right? It's bigger than sports, more than sports. I'm going to take the last one. We're going to beat 2008 Florida. We're going to save lives in doing so by cutting off the careers of certain individuals and save, endless trauma and whatever else for the people of the Ohio State area, wherever that school is located, and everything else. So that's the one. I don't want to say that I'm a hero, but I picked the one that saves people's lives, not the sport one.
You think if they had less power, though, and less fame from that national championship win, that'd give them more time to do shenanigans, though. So that's another thought.
So that brings up a good point. Tim Tebow, does Tim Tebow potentially?
I don't know. Okay, Ty just kind of stopped.
That might be a good thing.
I'm muted?
Bobby, something just happened. No, you're fine now, Bobby. I think
good. Can you hear me?
The world was telling us something there that we might need to stop and move on from that and let Bobby answer his pill. We can hear you, Bobby.
There were literally like maybe 4 people that Ty said we should not mention. We did not mention, but anyways, so the pill I would take, I'd go OU men's and women's basketball winning it. Just Frank. Hey, Ty, it's okay. Ty, you have someone on your bandwagon there. They switched their vote to Florida 08. So you have someone on the side of humanity with you. Other than Florida 08, which would cause like a chain of events that cause many horrible things to not happen due to Urban Meyer's gang of, degenerates. Well, look, the Brent thing, Jameson actually probably put up the best argument for that I'd seen the entire day, because frankly, what am I saying? Frankly, Brent
Frankfurter's on the brain for Bobby.
I'm thinking about Johnny's. No free ads. But yeah, no, it makes me think about that would be a great setup for the SEC. And that's the only reason I would be kind of waffling on it. But for me, like an OU basketball national championship is something that I don't think we would see naturally without any of these pills. That's the one that is just like right there that I'm not sure that we'd ever get. If Brent wins one, he doesn't win one. It doesn't matter. We'll see. I hopefully, knock on wood, think I will see someone. I mean, I've seen Stoops win it in my life. I was 5. I'm pretty sure I was pretending I was Harry Potter in the other room instead of watching the football game because I was 5 years old. But I did see that happen. But OU basketball, no one's ever seen that happen. No one's ever seen that happen. And I don't know if we would ever do that without the pill.
I think that's a good argument, Bobby, but I'll give this to you and break down your thought on this. If you had a choice, press one button or the other. OU basketball national championship next year, or OU football national championship. What would you pick?
If I press that button, do I just? First of all, let's also
it's just
if you
take
take this pill, you forget you took the pill, and it just happens. So like
it just
you get
happens,
to experience
yes.
organic.
So you only have those 2 pills. You just got to pick one.
Right now,
come on, you got to be truthful.
I actually think I'd go basketball.
Oh, that's just a bad take. I'm just going to disagree with that one. I told you
is going to happen. It will happen.
That's what I was. That's what I was going to say.
But it doesn't matter because I would take 20. No, I would continuously pick OU football over and over because that's how much that sport means to the state of Oklahoma. We're talking about filling the stadium. We want to talk about filling Lloyd Noble. And even if we did win a national championship, I don't think it's going to change that much because culture is very, very hard to change. It doesn't take 1 year. It doesn't take one national championship. It's a long thing that we've been doing since we were kids. And then our fathers and mothers, were doing whenever they were kids, if they lived here in Oklahoma. Like, this is a culture that you can't stop. And it's OU football. It's not OU basketball. We have great history, of great players in OU basketball, but it's always OU football, and it means so much more.
Here's the thing, James.
No, but I do have to...
Well, can I say this one really quick, Ty?
Yeah.
Here's the thing with that is think about like you and I when we were kids, like when the 03 or 04 national championships came up. How many people were like, well, you know what? We won in 2000. It is an insatiable beast, OU football. It takes championships, it consumes it, and it moves on to the next title. It does that over and over and over again. But an OU basketball national championship, that is something that I will hold dear forever because it's like, we're probably never going to do this again. This is special. I have no expectations for this program going forward. I'm just happy I have this moment. And I feel like overall the program it'll take it and it'll feed it and it'll go faster and faster and just want the next one. But I wouldn't be as happy.
Well, I feel
that. That's totally fine. I respect your opinion.
In Bobby's defense, right? If you're a true believer in Venables and OU football, you don't take the Venables national championship. I don't think we're going to win it next year, to be fair. But you don't take that pill because you believe in your heart that we're going to do it anyways, right? So it's almost like taking the first pill, which I have a quick pro tip on that I'll spill in a second. But like taking the second pill, it's almost a waste, like Bobby's saying. Whereas you can get something, where it's only possible through the pill versus taking something that's essentially a placebo. Jameson, I know you're a scientist. I'm not sure if you know what that means. But for the listeners,
never heard of them.
I know Jameson doesn't know the scientific method.
Clinical trials never give them.
Yeah, so who knows? I will say I would like to know. I just recently finished a book on pharma. I would like to know which company is manufacturing these pills before I agree to take any of them.
Okay,
I will say that not taking anything that Purdue Pharma makes. But anyway,
quick, is that a part of the big Purdue Vandy Wake Forest scandal? Or
no, they're not actually a big. I'm going to stop myself on the tangent. No. Yeah. Pro tip. You want to go to OU Sports for free, minus football? Sign up for an online class and then go to the OU. You got to drive to OU to go to the Norman campus to the student union where you can get yourself an in-person OU ID. I don't have mine on me. Little plastic ID, right? Sign up for literally one single online class. Put your money down. You're going to lose $50 in doing this. Put your money down, get an OU ID, and then immediately withdraw from that class that you're in. Get all of your money back besides your non-refundable deposit. Have your ID, and then just use that at every sporting event. They don't scan it or anything. You just show them your OU ID that says, "Oh yeah, I go to OU. I'm a student," and they let you in for free. If you're paying for anything besides football, even basketball, I'm pretty sure they let you in for free to most of them. Like you're a chump, honestly. To be fair, it's I don't even know what to compare it to. It's so easy. Just go get an ID. It's not that hard. Withdraw from the class, Wumbo in whatever that course is, and then get your ID and use it to get into any. I don't know why you'd be going to other sports besides football or maybe
all you need is
free stuff.
All you need is a random ID and your thumb, and put your thumb over the photo and show it to them, and they'll let you up. They do not care. Or
even that too, yeah.
Or buy
or just walk
ticket,
through.
Go
or just walk through and don't even listen to them. Yeah.
Buy a student ticket, go to any gate, and then just walk through the stadium to the student section and sit down, and nobody cares. But also, then you're a weirdo in the student section as not a student.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
You don't want to stay in the student section as an adult, though.
Student tickets are the cheapest ones. Yeah, get a student ticket and then just walk to wherever you want to sit and then sit there.
Yeah. One last point before we end it. I kind of wanted to make this about my football argument, and it seems like our one of our listeners agrees with me that football championships the only thing that matters. Obviously, there's a point here. My thing with it, Bobby, is yes, basketball would be great because I don't think we'll ever see it again. We don't have.
But also, who cares?
Yes, but the thing is, yes, that's just one basketball championship, but we see how quick basketball turns over, and the culture of it is really, really hard to actually win a championship to begin with. In football, you see people win championships over and over and over. And if we win one now and we get our culture, that could be multiple championships. And yes, we talk about Brent Venables. He might just win one anyways because I believe in him so much. But don't you want to accelerate that timeline a little bit rather than wait a couple years and hope that, that the coin lands the right way? If we win one next year, we're moving fast. And, our timeline's pushed up. And that could be multiple national championships due to the culture change moving into the SEC. I'm standing strongly on that. But I understand your basketball argument. But if I won the basketball tournament, I'd be really happy, and then I'd get over it pretty quickly. The football thing, I'd be living high on that one. Let's be honest. I'm going to be honest. I love my OU basketball, but I would get over the hype of an OU national championship win a lot, like significantly quicker than football. I'd be riding the football one for a long time.
Let's say that next fall and we lose in the playoff. How long does that championship linger with you, though?
It's still very
that basketball natty for me. That basketball natty for me. I would watch that one shining moment to oblivion.
Here's what you're not thinking about, though, Bobby. It's literally been it's been 22 years or 21 years. I'm not really sure how math works since we've won a football national title, and we're still riding that. We're still getting dividends from that in terms of recruiting and street cred. Obviously, when you start to accumulate them. It's like compounding interest, when you have 7, and then, we're continuing to perform. We haven't fallen off like a team that used to be good and isn't now, like, I don't know, Georgia. You can ride a football one for 20 plus years. We'll see. Look, we keep riding this one. So
I've honestly lingered from the point where I'm talking about the importance of one sport winning it, because you're right. Frankly, the first one of my adult life winning it is definitely over, an OU hoops one. It's about the inevitability. I think OU is going to win one in my lifetime. I sure hope that. Like, that is so important to me. You're right. But for me, it's just because I don't know if basketball is ever going to win it. That'd be really cool if they did. That's kind of what it boils down to. But Jameson, your point of would I rather, if I had to pick, would I rather OU football win an natty or basketball win a natty for the rest of my life? And then, like, that's it. It's football, hands down. I want that experience.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we've sort of strawmanned this to a
little
point. I do want to say real quick in my closing notes here, back to a discussion we had sort of previously. One of our listeners in the chat, Michael Whitman, brought up a good point when we were talking about doxing where Boat and Blake lives, and he brought up the point that there are 5 potential apartment complexes that he could live in. I don't want to encourage anything or say anything, but if you wish to meet Boat and Blake in person for not doing him harm or not any sort of crime, but that's only taking 1 week off work, right? Because you just spend 1 day each outside of each apartment complex. Eventually, you'll see him. And
all right, folks, we're removing Ty from the chat here. That I think is where we draw the line. Anyways, y'all, thank you so much for listening. We definitely went a little bit longer than we should have. Jameson, Ty, thank you so much for popping on as always. I'm not even gonna ask for final words because we are past an hour here, but you know what? It was good. This conversation was good. So yeah. So if you like this, make sure to follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. Hit us up with that 5-star review on Apple Pods. Spotify has ratings now, so do that. If you have any, anything we can change, let us know. So, Ty, you put up a little for our podcast listeners. You put up a little post-it note. What is there anything you want to say?
This one that says pro tip?
No. You put up like an F something. It looked like it was going to be something about F1.
What's that?
Never mind. We're moving on. But anyways, thank you all so much for listening to Schooner Pod. We'll be back next week to do a full spring game breakdown. And we'll see you then. So until then, for me, Ty, and Jameson, this has been the Schooner Pod presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network and DraftKings. We'll catch you next time.